Welcome to Learn the Sword. As you well know, there's a lot of different swords out there. There are lots of different materials to make swords. As a general rule though, over in Japan, usually you start off with bamboo and then you go to wood, metal, steel. A lot of times there's synthetics involved or plastic ones, or you have carbon shinais instead of the old traditional bamboo ones, or you're using the action flex equipment, for example. There's a lot of different ways to polish your speed, your timing, your prowess. There's lots of different ways to use the sword to make yourself much better. As a general rule though, a lot of us use swords that are a little lighter, which is great. And we have a tendency to get out there and snap it out really nice, which is really fun too. But remember, if you go from a light sword to a heavy sword, there are some things that you must take in consideration. Let's look at a sports car. If you've been driving a sports car and you careen in and out of all the different cars and you're pretty fast and good brakes and stop on a dime, well, what happens if you're driving a dump truck with bad brakes full of gravel? You have to drive much differently because the physics are different. Well, same thing with a sword. If I take this bamboo shinai, for example, and I'm feeling good about it, I'm getting out there and I'm throwing it out and I'm hitting the target, or just air, or a tire, or a bob from Century, or someone else in kendo armor, you know, depending on where you are in this country, or wherever the country is. So what I'd like you to understand is a lot of people, they come in and they take it and they throw it hard, and all of a sudden at the end, they throw their hands out like that. And they go, well, that's Shiboda, or that's ringing the blade. Yeah, it's ringing the blade and it's being sneaky and it's coming over here and going bang right upside the guy's head. So what it's telling me is now I have a light stick, I can get over there and thump him upside the ear. Which is fun, it's great, and of course, it teaches you good timing and rhythm. But what it doesn't do is, it doesn't allow you the experience your wrists need to take a larger weapon and get it over to the target. So for example, if I'm over here like this and I throw this out like this when it's soft, it's pretty good. And a lot of people, I see this, I'm over exaggerating it a little bit, but you know what I mean. You're throwing it out like there, and you're trying to get a little speed and a little pop right there. And then all of a sudden the muscles on the back of your hand pull a little bit here, or they get a little tighter there. Not as much with this, but let's see what happens when we go to wood. There are many different sizes of wood. This is a very light wood one. This is probably about 500 grams. Now when I throw this out, I can do the same thing. I can throw that wrist and really get that wrist action and get in there. But then again, if I do it more than 3 or 4 minutes, my wrists start getting a little worn here and a little tired. Remember, if you are going to be into swordsmanship full feet or both feet, you have to remember that you have to make it perfect every time, just because that's what they call for. So what I'd like to talk about is a little bit more of the wood. So say we go to another piece of wood, and I'll find one that's a little bit heavier. And as you can see, this one's heavier. This is about 650 grams. And this is a heavier wood, and it's nicer. You notice though, instead of going like that, I can't do that much anymore. The reason why is it's getting too top heavy. And if I do that, it's going to throw my wrists out this way. And if I'm in the heat of battle and I throw it out with my hands not securely fastened to the handle, what's going to happen is I'm going to lose my weapon. Now, I've seen this a lot. You get a little fatigued, then the weapon flies across the room. Nevertheless, watch what I'm starting to do now. I'm bringing this left hand down a little farther, and I'm keeping the right one a little bit more parallel to the floor, if you can see my arm. So instead of coming out like this and working the wrists and making them take the whole brunt and the whole shock of the weapon, what I'm doing now is I'm throwing this hand straighter and in. So if I'm just using it one hand, boom, look at it again, boom. You can see that even with one hand, with a heavy one, it stops pretty well. So when I take both hands and I throw this out, bang, I can hit there like this. But then again, you're saying, well, look at this really deep angle. You know, I'm so used to hitting the targets like this and trying to hit them up on top of the head and tag them. And that's all well and good. But here you are, if you're using a real sword, the hand's out like this, and you're trying to chop onions on top of his head, where I'm coming like this and I'm cleaving the skull. So, what I'd like you to understand is when you go from light bamboo to wood or to a heavier sword, for example, now this one here is a 1,500 gram sword. I'm not even going to pull it out of its case. Main reason why is this saya here is an extra few hundred grams, so now this is a pretty heavy sword. So if I try to throw it out, I'm going to throw myself forward. If I put my hands together and push it out, yeah, I can do that. But you could see after about 4 or 5 tries, your wrists are going to be fatigued and you'll probably be rubbing them for a week. So watch the difference. I'm going to come out here and I'm going to throw out that way. Or I'm going to come out here and I'm going to throw out that way. And you can see the difference in the angle. Remember, if we are practicing with a weapon, we have to work with gravity, because if we don't, the heaviness or the weight of the object will be hard to return from if we over-exaggerate our stances or our thrusts. Because remember, if you over-exaggerate and cast out too far and you miss, you'll be nice, wide open for your opponent in his counterattack.